In August 1958, the biggest entertainer alive walked alone into a black gospel church on Chicago's South Side. No entourage, no cameras. Mahalia Jackson spotted him and didn't hold back. She mocked Elvis from the pulpit, demanding why a man who made millions from music born in black churches dared walk into one. His answer was not an apology. It was a secret identity, 6 years of hidden visits, and a name the congregation had never heard. In a dramatic reconstruction of an unverified but persistent account, the Sunday service at Greater Bethlehem Baptist Church on Chicago's South Side was already underway in August 1958 when a young man slipped through the back doors. He wore plain clothes, arrived without an entourage, and carried no cameras. He sat quietly in the very last pew, hoping to blend into the congregation, but the slicked back hair and unmistakable profile gave him away almost instantly. Whispers rippled through the wooden pews. It was Elvis Presley. An older deacon looked back, his face tightening with suspicion. To many in the room, this young white singer was an unwelcome presence, viewed as a cultural thief. Throughout the late 1950s, black ministers, journalists, and musicians voiced growing anger over rock and roll's sudden financial empire. White performers were securing massive record deals and national television spots, while the black innovators who pioneered the rhythm, blues, and gospel sounds remained underpaid, legally unprotected, and locked out of mainstream profits. The vast economic divide between the impoverished Southern communities sustaining this music and the commercial radio stations broadcasting it created a deep, painful rift of distrust. Yet, Presley's connection to this music was deeply personal. While the Chicago encounter remains unverified, historical records paint a clear picture of his genuine devotion to black gospel. As a teenager in Memphis, Presley regularly walked into black sanctuaries to listen to the services. He spent hours at East Trigg Baptist Church, where the pioneering composer and pastor, Reverend W. Herbert Brewster, shaped the modern gospel sound. Presley absorbed the vocal phrasing, the emotional urgency, and the rhythmic power of the choirs directly from those wooden pews. He admired artists like Mahalia Jackson, whose landmark 1947 hit, "Move On Up a Little Higher," had revolutionized the industry. But in the sanctuary of Greater Bethlehem Baptist, that shared musical heritage was overshadowed by years of systemic exploitation. The deacon's suspicion hung heavily in the air as the service turned toward the pulpit, where Mahalia Jackson herself stood ready to sing. Mahalia Jackson stood at the pulpit as the absolute authority of the sanctuary. Born in 1911, she had revolutionized American music with her historic 1947 recording of "Move On Up a Little Higher." A release that sold millions of copies, established her as the Queen of Gospel, and eventually aligned her with the civil rights movement. Today, she called the congregation to spiritual honesty, demanding true worship instead of empty entertainment. When Jackson began to sing "Move On Up a Little Higher," the room transformed. The congregation was swept into the music, but in the back pew, Elvis remained still. He sat with his eyes closed, tears running down his face as he absorbed the sound. As the song ended, Jackson set down her glass of water. She scanned the pews, locked eyes with the young singer, and addressed Elvis directly by name. This was no playful celebrity banter. It was a deliberate, pointed public challenge. Her voice cut through the room, asking why a man who had made millions from music, born in rooms just like this, had come here today, and whether he intended to take something else. A heavy, absolute silence fell over the sanctuary, leaving the question unanswered. Elvis did not offer a defensive speech. He did not deny the accusation, nor did he boast of his success. Instead, he answered with a quiet claim. For 6 years, under the name Sam Burnett, he had been visiting Southern black churches. He spoke of sitting anonymously in back pews from 1952 to 1958, listening to the music and leaving behind cash donations to fund choirs and gospel schools. He used an alias, he said, so his massive celebrity would not eclipse the creators of the music he loved. Yet, this private history remains entirely unverified. No church ledger, visitor log, or Graceland archive contains any record of Sam Burnett or these secret donations. Even if true, personal sincerity could not erase the structural exploitation that enriched white stars while black innovators remained in poverty. Mahalia Jackson listened from the pulpit, her face unyielding. She would not accept a secret story as an answer. If he wanted grace in this sanctuary, she demanded proof. Mahalia Jackson did not offer a polite nod or soft reassurance. She stood firm, demanding immediate, undeniable proof from the young singer. If he had truly sat in these pews, he would have to sing right there, without a band, without a rehearsal, and without the polished production of a recording studio. Elvis did not protest. He slowly walked forward, turned to the church pianist, and quietly asked for a single, simple chord to find his key. In this dramatic reconstruction of the unverified encounter, Elvis began to sing Thomas A. Dorsey's Peace in the Valley. His voice, stripped of commercial varnish, cracked under the weight of the room's intense scrutiny, exposing the raw vulnerability underneath. The contrast was stark. The most famous rock and roll star in the world, standing alone and exposed before a congregation that had long distrusted his sudden success and wealth. By the second verse, any attempt at a virtuoso display faded into an act of quiet submission, his shoulders dropping as he sang to the wooden rafters. While history records Elvis's polished performance of Peace in the Valley on The Ed Sullivan Show on January 6, 1957, and his extensive catalog of subsequent sacred recordings, those public triumphs cannot authenticate this intimate, legendary church moment. As his voice trailed off, the sanctuary did not erupt into applause. The congregation remained still, withholding the easy validation of a theater crowd. But then, starting from an older deacon in a single wooden pew and spreading softly through the room like a quiet wave, came a spontaneous, whispered response. Amen. Mahalia Jackson stepped down from the pulpit. She walked slowly across the wooden floor, her eyes fixed on the young singer, and took both of his hands in her own. Her face softened, offering a moment of quiet grace, but not a complete pass. In that reconstructed moment, she reportedly told him he was not the caricature printed in the daily newspapers. If his 6 years of quiet, anonymous support under a false name were true, she murmured, those hidden actions spoke far louder than any public headline. Yet, the congregation watched in heavy silence, offering no easy absolution, as Jackson led Presley toward the church office. Inside the quiet church office, away from the sanctuary's intense heat, the conversation turned from performance to accountability. In this dramatic reconstruction of their unverified meeting, Presley explained his years of secrecy. He claimed that using his real name would have instantly shifted the focus from the sacred music and its creators to his own colossal celebrity. He wanted to be a donor, not a headline. But Mahalia Jackson was a pragmatist who understood the cold realities of the music business. To her, quiet charity was no longer sufficient once the secret had been exposed. She did not offer Elvis an easy escape from a commercial system that heavily favored white artists while keeping black innovators in poverty. She demanded a public act of stewardship. She told him he must use his massive platform to directly support the black choirs and gospel schools he claimed to fund, ensuring the credit and the recognition landed squarely on those institutions, not on his own celebrity. According to the legend, Presley listened, reached into his pocket, and wrote the promise down in a small notebook. While no such diary or confirming correspondence has ever been authenticated in the Graceland archives, this alleged gesture represented a lasting agreement of mutual respect. It was a promise to let the creators of the music claim their own light. Modern retellings claim this quiet agreement bloomed into celebrated gospel programs and church choirs funded entirely by Elvis Presley, who kept his promise to stay out of the spotlight. Yet, when this satisfying aftermath is measured against historical archives, the records tell a different story. Elvis Presley was inducted into the United States Army on March 24, 1958, and stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, for advanced training. His only leave during August of that year was born of tragedy. On August 9th, he flew to Memphis to visit his gravely ill mother, Gladys, who passed away on August 14th. After her funeral, he returned to Fort Hood on August 24th. No military record, travel log, or itinerary places him in Chicago during this period. Similarly, searches of the Chicago Defender, Jet, Ebony, and mainstream Chicago newspapers yield no mention of an appearance at Greater Bethlehem Baptist Church. Mahalia Jackson's own summer itinerary fails to verify the meeting, and the alias Sam Burnett appears only in modern online accounts, completely absent from Graceland financial records. While Presley's documented charity was extensive, his donations were almost exclusively tied to Memphis area institutions. Yet, the lack of paper evidence does not erase his genuine connection to Black gospel, forged in his youth at East Trigg Baptist Church under Reverend W. Herbert Brewster. When an older Elvis stood on stage closing his eyes to sing Peace in the Valley, he returned to that foundation. His personal devotion coexisted with a music industry that enriched white performers while leaving Black creators in poverty. The folklore and the history remain in tension, leaving the Black composers, singers, and congregations as the moral center of the music. Today, the ledger of music history remains unfinished, but whether in documented fact or whispered legend, one truth endures. The crown of rock and roll may have gone to a king, but the soul of the song will always belong to the sanctuary.